Maya Carson stood in the rain outside the county auction house, her jacket doing little to protect her from the cold October drizzle that seemed to seep into her bones. She clutched a crumpled $5 bill in her pocket, the last money she had until her next shift at the diner 3 days from now. Her daughter Emma waited in their rusted Honda Civic, homework spread across the back seat, probably cold despite the thin blanket Maya had wrapped around her shoulders that morning. The auction was almost over. Maya had come with no real intention of bidding, just desperate curiosity about what people threw away, what they deemed worthless. Maybe there would be furniture she could afford, something to replace the milk crate Emma used as a nightstand. The auctioneer's voice droned through the open doorway, bored and mechanical, listing off items nobody wanted. Then she heard it. Lot 47. Abandoned railway freight car, circa 1952. Located on defunct siding off County Road 12. Sold as is. Removal required within 30 days. Do I hear $1? Silence. Maya edged closer to the doorway, peering inside at the sparse crowd of bargain hunters and scrap dealers. Nobody moved. The auctioneer sighed. 50 cents, then? Anyone? More silence. Maya felt something stir inside her. Not hope exactly, but something close to it. A train car. Even a rusted hulk of metal had to be worth something for scrap. She thought of Emma's worn shoes, the electricity bill sitting unopened on their apartment counter, the eviction notice giving them 2 weeks to catch up on rent or leave. Going once, the auctioneer said, already moving to close his book. Maya's hand shot up before she could stop herself. $1. Every head in the room turned toward her. The auctioneer's eyebrows lifted. We have $1 from the lady in the doorway. Going once, twice, sold to the lady for $1. The room erupted in scattered laughter. A man in overalls nudged his companion. Poor thing just bought herself 100 tons of rust and rat nests. Hope she's got a crane and a flatbed truck. Maya's cheeks burned, but she walked to the cashier's table with her chin up. She counted out 4 quarters, trying not to think about the 25-cent difference between eating lunch tomorrow or going hungry. The clerk handed her a receipt and a property deed with an amused smirk. Good luck with that, honey. You're gonna need it. Outside, Emma looked up from her homework as Maya climbed into the driver's seat. Did you get something, Mom? I got us a train car, Maya said, trying to sound confident. Emma's eyes widened. Like a real train car? Can we go see it? Maya glanced at the address on the paperwork. County Road 12 wasn't far. Let's go look at what we bought. The drive took 15 minutes through increasingly rural landscape. Trees pressed close to narrow roads, and the pavement eventually gave way to gravel. They found the rusted gate exactly where the deed indicated, chained but not locked. Maya pushed it open, and they drove down an overgrown access road that hadn't seen traffic in decades. And there it sat, a massive freight car, dark red paint faded to brown, streaked with rust and years of weather. It leaned slightly to one side, where the rails beneath it had warped and sunk into the earth. Weeds grew up through the wheels. Vines crawled across the sides like grasping fingers. The car's sliding door hung partially open, jammed in place by vegetation and decay. Emma pressed her face against the car window. It's huge. It was huge. And it was theirs. Maya felt a strange mixture of pride and terror. What had she done? How would she even begin to move this thing, let alone make money from it? They climbed out of the Honda. Maya approached the train car slowly, boots crunching through dead leaves and brittle weeds. Up close, the metal felt cold beneath her palm, rough with corrosion but still solid. The car was at least 60 feet long, towering above her. She walked its length, noting the rust patterns, the faded railway company logo barely visible on the side, the way one corner had buckled slightly from years of settling. Emma found a metal step and climbed up to peer through the partially opened door. Mom, there's stuff inside. Maya pulled herself up beside her daughter. The interior was dim, lit only by the failing afternoon light filtering through gaps in the metal. The floor was littered with old pallets, rotted cardboard, and what looked like the remains of shipping crates that had disintegrated over time. Dust hung in the air, thick enough to taste. Be careful, Maya said, though she wasn't sure what dangers might lurk in an abandoned train car. Rats probably. Maybe raccoons. She helped Emma down. We'll come back with flashlights and gloves. Maybe this weekend. As they drove away, Maya caught one last glimpse of the freight car in her rearview mirror, a dark silhouette against the darkening sky. It looked lonely and forgotten, much like she felt most days. That night, Maya lay awake in their small apartment, listening to Emma's steady breathing from the air mattress they shared. The eviction notice sat on the kitchen table, a constant reminder that time was running out. Her ex-husband hadn't sent child support in 8 months. Her car insurance was overdue, and she just spent one of her last dollars on a train car she couldn't move and probably couldn't sell. Her sister's voice echoed in her head from their last phone call. You need to be practical, Maya. Stop dreaming and face reality. Her former mother-in-law had been even less kind. That girl's going to end up in foster care if you don't get your act together. You can't even afford rent, and you're wasting money on junk. Maybe they were right. Maybe she had made another foolish decision in a long line of foolish decisions. But something about that train car pulled at her, something she couldn't name yet. The weekend came slowly. Maya worked double shifts at the diner, her feet aching, her back protesting every step. Customers left small tips or none at all. Her manager reminded her twice that they were cutting hours next month. Everything felt like it was crumbling piece by piece. On Saturday morning, Maya and Emma returned to County Road 12 with flashlights, work gloves, and a renewed sense of determination. Emma chattered excitedly the entire drive. Maybe there's treasure inside. Maybe someone left money in there. Don't get your hopes up, baby, Maya said gently. It's probably just old junk. But Emma's enthusiasm was infectious. As they walked down the overgrown access road again, Maya found herself wondering, what if? What if there was something valuable hidden inside? Old tools worth selling? Copper wiring they could strip and recycle? Even small salvage could buy groceries for a week. They pried the sliding door open wider, metal screeching in protest. Sunlight flooded the interior, revealing the full extent of the decay. The wooden floor had rotted in places, exposing rusted support beams beneath. Water stains marked where rain had leaked through the roof for years. Everything smelled of mold and abandonment. Maya swept her flashlight beam across the space. Stay close to me. Watch for weak spots in the floor. They spent the next hour clearing debris, dragging rotted pallets outside, brushing away layers of leaves and dirt. Emma found an old railway lantern, glass long shattered, but the metal frame intact. Can I keep this? Sure, honey. Maya watched her daughter examine the artifact with wonder, and her heart ached. Emma deserved so much more than this, more than scraping by, more than a mother who bought abandoned train cars with their last dollar. As Maya moved deeper into the car, her boot caught on something. She looked down, expecting another piece of rotted wood, but instead saw a metal handle flush with the floor, partially hidden beneath decades of accumulated grime. She knelt, brushing away dirt with her gloved hand. What is it? Emma asked, appearing at her side. I don't know. Maya traced the outline of what appeared to be a hatch or access panel. It was roughly 3 feet square, secured by rusted bolts at each corner. She pulled a wrench from her tool bag and tried to loosen the first bolt. It wouldn't budge. Maybe it's just for maintenance, Maya said, though her pulse had quickened. Probably leads to the undercarriage. We should open it, Emma said with absolute certainty. Maya tried again, applying more pressure. The bolt shifted slightly, rained down like snow. She worked methodically, moving from bolt to bolt, muscles straining. Her hands cramped. Sweat ran down her back despite the autumn chill. But slowly, impossibly, the bolts began to turn. 30 minutes later, all 4 bolts lay on the floor beside her. Maya gripped the handle and pulled. The hatch resisted at first, sealed by rust and time, then suddenly gave way with a metallic groan. A rush of stale air escaped from below, cold and musty. Maya shined her flashlight into the opening. Instead of the undercarriage she expected, she saw steps. Metal steps leading down into darkness. Her breath caught in her throat. Mom! Emma's voice was small now, uncertain. Stay here, Maya said. I'm going to look. I want to come with you. Maya hesitated, then nodded. Hold my hand. Don't let go. They descended together, step by careful step. The metal rang hollowly beneath their feet. The walls around them were smooth steel, deliberately constructed, not part of the original train car at all. This was a hidden compartment, a secret space carved into the undercarriage. Maya's flashlight beam swept across the darkness below, and what it revealed made her stop breathing entirely. The compartment was perhaps 20 feet long and 8 feet wide, perfectly preserved by the sealed environment. And it was filled, floor to ceiling, with wooden crates. Dozens of them, stacked with military precision, each one marked with faded stencils she couldn't quite read in the dim light. "What is all this?" Emma whispered. Maya climbed down the last step, her legs unsteady. She approached the nearest crate, running her flashlight over the markings. The stencils were old, official-looking, some kind of government stamps. Her hand shook as she found a gap in one crate's lid and pried it open with her fingers. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth that had protected them from decades of moisture, were bundles. Thick bundles bound with rotting rubber bands. She lifted one carefully, unwrapping the cloth. Her flashlight illuminated crisp paper. Bills. $100 bills, so old the design looked foreign, but perfectly preserved. She stared at the bundle in her hands, unable to process what she was seeing. "Mom!" Emma's voice seemed to come from very far away. Maya's hands moved of their own accord. She opened another bundle. More bills. She turned to another crate, forcing the lid open. More bundles. All cash. All hundreds. The walls seemed to spin around her. She tried to count, tried to calculate, but the numbers refused to make sense. One crate might hold hundreds of thousands of dollars. There were dozens of crates. Her mind kept rejecting the math, insisting it couldn't be real, couldn't be this much. Emma had climbed down beside her now, staring at the open crate with wide eyes. "Is that real money?" "I think so." Maya's voice came out as a croak. She cleared her throat and tried again. "I think it's real." They stood in silence, the flashlight beam cutting through dust motes that danced in the air. Above them, daylight filtered weakly through the open hatch. The train car groaned in the wind, a sound that suddenly seemed less lonely and more ominous. "What do we do?" Emma asked. That was the question, wasn't it? Maya's thoughts raced. Where had this money come from? Why was it hidden in an abandoned train car? How long had it been here? And most importantly, did it belong to someone? She thought of the eviction notice. She thought of Emma's worn shoes and her own empty bank account. She thought of every bill collector who had ever called, every time she'd had to choose between electricity and groceries. Every night, she'd cried herself to sleep wondering how she would keep her daughter safe and fed. "We don't tell anyone," Maya said slowly. "Not yet. Not until we figure out what this is." Emma nodded solemnly, as if she understood the weight of this discovery. Maya rewrapped the bundle she'd opened and placed it carefully back in the crate. Her mind was already working, planning. She needed to research the train car's history, find out where it had come from, what it had carried. She needed to understand if this money was evidence of something criminal, if taking it would make her a thief, or if it was truly abandoned property that now belonged to her by legal deed. They climbed back up into the train car, and Maya secured the hatch, sweeping debris over it to hide its existence. Her heart hammered so hard she thought Emma must be able to hear it. As they drove home, Maya kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting police cars or black SUVs to appear behind them. But the road remained empty. The world continued on, oblivious to what lay hidden beneath the rust and decay of an abandoned freight car. That night, after Emma had fallen asleep, Maya sat at her laptop, searching. She typed in the railway company name she'd seen on the train car side. The company had gone bankrupt in 1973. Its assets had been liquidated, its trains sold for scrap or abandoned on defunct rail lines throughout 3 states. She searched for the specific model and serial number from the car's identification plate. Nothing came up. The trail had gone cold decades ago. This car had been forgotten, written off, erased from official records. Maya's hands trembled over the keyboard. She searched for news about missing money, railway heists, government shipments. Hours passed. Her eyes burned from staring at the screen. And slowly, a picture began to emerge. In the early 1950s, during the height of Cold War paranoia, the government had moved massive amounts of currency between Federal Reserve banks via railway, trying to decentralize assets in case of nuclear attack. Shipments were kept secret, routes changed frequently, and security was minimal because the secrecy itself was considered protection. Several shipments had gone missing over the years, written off as administrative errors or lost in the chaos of the era's bookkeeping. The amounts had been staggering, but in the confusion of constant currency movement and limited computer tracking, the losses had been buried in bureaucracy and forgotten. Maya sat back, her mind reeling. Could this be one of those lost shipments? Money that had been written off 50 years ago? Money that technically belonged to the government but had been forgotten, abandoned, and never recovered? She thought about the legal implications. Finding abandoned property was one thing, but government money? Even if it had been forgotten for half a century, someone might come looking for it eventually. Someone with power and resources far beyond hers. Fear crawled up her spine. What if opening that hatch had triggered something? What if there were sensors or alarms she hadn't noticed? She stood and walked to the window, peering through the blinds at the empty street below. Nothing moved except a neighbor's cat crossing between streetlights. She was being paranoid. The train car had been abandoned for decades. If there had ever been tracking devices or security measures, they would have died long ago. No one knew what she'd found. No one was coming. But sleep wouldn't come that night. Maya lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the crates of money sitting in the darkness beneath that rusted train car. She thought about Emma's future, about college funds and medical bills, and every door that had been slammed in their faces because poverty was a crime people couldn't forgive. She thought about dignity, about walking into a store and not counting every penny, about paying rent on time, about having enough. By morning, Maya had made her decision. She would verify the money's authenticity first. Then she would take what she needed, carefully, slowly, in amounts that wouldn't draw attention. She would hide it, save it, use it to build the life her daughter deserved. If anyone came looking, she could claim ignorance. She bought the train car legally. She'd found the compartment by accident. She hadn't known what it was. It wasn't stealing if no one was looking for it. It wasn't theft if the owner had abandoned it decades ago. She repeated these justifications to herself like prayers, trying to quiet the voice of doubt that whispered warnings in the back of her mind. Over the next week, Maya returned to the train car every day after her shifts at the diner. She worked carefully, documenting everything with her phone's camera. She counted crates, estimated the total amount. The numbers were staggering, impossible. $287 million. Give or take a few million. She felt dizzy every time she calculated it. This was more money than she could comprehend, more money than she could spend in 10 lifetimes. It was enough to change everything. But Maya wasn't greedy. She didn't want all of it. She wanted enough to survive, to thrive, to give Emma opportunities. She wanted to stop drowning. That was all. She brought a backpack on her next visit and filled it with 10 bundles of cash. $100,000. It felt enormous in her hands, but it was a drop in the ocean of what remained below. She could take this much without anyone noticing, without even making a dent in the total. That night, she hid the money in the ceiling tiles of their apartment, wrapped in plastic bags to protect it from moisture. Emma watched solemnly, understanding without being told that this was their secret, their salvation, their way out. "Are we rich now?" Emma asked. Maya thought about that question. Were they rich? They had access to unimaginable wealth, but they couldn't spend it freely, couldn't tell anyone where it came from. They were rich and poor simultaneously, living in two realities at once. "We're going to be okay," Maya said instead. "That's what matters." But the weight of the secret pressed down on her shoulders like a physical burden. She jumped at unexpected sounds. She watched strangers with suspicion, wondering if they knew, if they could somehow sense what she'd found. The first person to question her new fortune was her landlord. Maya arrived at his office 3 days later with rent money, all the back payments she owed, in crisp $100 bills. He counted the money slowly, eyebrows raised. "Where'd you get this?" "I've been working extra shifts," Maya lied, her voice steady. "Saving everything." He studied her face for a long moment, then shrugged and wrote her a receipt. Well, you're paid up through next month. Try to stay current this time. Maya walked out of his office feeling like she'd passed the test. If she could lie to him, she could lie to anyone. But the questions multiplied. When she bought Emma new shoes and a warm winter coat, her sister called, suspicious. Where are you getting money? Are you dealing drugs? I swear, Maya, if you're putting Emma in danger. I'm not dealing drugs, Maya said, fighting to keep her voice calm. I got a bonus at work, and I sold some things. What things? Just stuff. None of your business. Her sister's disapproval radiated through the phone. You're being secretive. That's not like you. But it was like her now. Secrets had become her second skin. She wore them like armor, protecting her and Emma from a world that had never shown them mercy. Maya's co-workers noticed too. She'd always brought leftovers or skipped lunch entirely. But now she ordered from the diner menu, paid in cash, left generous tips. Her manager, Carol, pulled her aside after a shift. You been gambling, honey? Because I've seen too many people think they can win at that game. I'm not gambling, Maya said. I just had some good luck. Good luck doesn't last, Carol warned. Bad luck comes for everyone eventually. Make sure you're ready when it does. The warning haunted Maya. She lay awake that night, wondering if Carol was right. Was she tempting fate? Would this newfound wealth bring disaster down on them? But the next morning, when Emma came downstairs wearing clothes that actually fit, when Maya paid the electricity bill without having to choose between that and groceries, when she put gas in the Honda without counting every penny, the doubt faded. This was right. They deserved this. She returned to the train car the following week, intending to take another bundle. But as she climbed through the partially open door, something felt wrong. The air was different, disturbed. She froze, listening. A rustle came from inside the compartment below. Her blood ran cold. Someone was down there. Maya backed toward the door, her mind racing. Had someone followed her? Had she been discovered? She should run, get to the car, drive away, never come back. But what if they'd seen her face? What if they knew where she lived? A head emerged from the hatch. A man, middle-aged, wearing expensive outdoor gear that looked out of place in the rusted train car. He saw her and smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Miss Carson, he said, we've been expecting you. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. She took another step backward. Who are you? Someone interested in what you found. He climbed fully into the train car, moving with casual confidence. That's quite a discovery you made. $287 million. That's the estimate, isn't it? Her mouth went dry. He knew. He knew everything. I don't know what you're talking about. Please. His smile widened slightly. We've been watching the train car for years. Motion sensors trigger whenever someone enters. We saw you. We've seen every visit. Maya's legs felt weak. Watching for years? That meant this money wasn't forgotten. Someone had known about it all along. Someone had been waiting. You've committed several crimes. The man continued conversationally. Theft of government property, money laundering, tax evasion. The FBI would be very interested in your activities. I bought this train car legally, Maya said, trying to keep her voice from shaking. I didn't steal anything. You took $100,000 from a sealed compartment containing federal assets. That's theft. He tilted his head, studying her. But we're not here to arrest you, Miss Carson. We're here to make a deal. What kind of deal? You walk away. Forget you ever found this. We'll forget about the money you already took. Everyone goes home happy. Maya stared at him, her mind processing. If they'd been watching, why wait until now? Why let her take that first $100,000? Why not just arrest me? Why offer a deal? His smile turned knowing. Because officially, this money doesn't exist. It was written off in 1954 as a transportation loss. If we arrest you, we have to acknowledge its existence in court. That creates complications. Better for everyone if it just stays lost. Who is everyone? Maya asked. People with longer memories than the government, he said. People who've kept track of assets that were conveniently forgotten during budget crises. People who might want that money for purposes you don't need to understand. Maya's thoughts raced. He wasn't government. Or if he was, he wasn't here on official business. This man represented something else, someone else. People who wanted the money for themselves. What if I don't take your deal? She asked quietly. His expression didn't change. Then we make sure the authorities find out about your theft. Your daughter ends up in foster care while you're in prison. Is $100,000 worth that risk? Emma. The mention of her daughter focused Maya's fear into something sharper. She thought of the bundles hidden in their ceiling, the life they could build. She thought of Emma's future, bright and full of possibility. I need time to think, Maya said. You have 24 hours. He pulled a business card from his pocket and held it out. Call this number. Tell us you'll cooperate. Then walk away from the train car and never come back. Maya took the card with numb fingers. The man climbed down from the train car and disappeared into the trees without another word. She stood alone in the rusted freight car, the weight of impossible choices crushing down on her. That night, Maya sat at the kitchen table with the business card in front of her. Emma was at a friend's house for a sleepover, a rare treat that Maya had arranged before this nightmare began. She was grateful Emma wasn't here to see her mother falling apart. $100,000 was life-changing money for her, but it was nothing compared to $287 million. Walking away meant staying poor, staying powerless, staying one crisis away from homelessness. But refusing meant risking everything. Maya thought about the man in the train car, his expensive gear, his casual confidence, people with longer memories than the government. What did that mean? Criminal organizations? Corporate interests? Corrupt officials? Whoever they were, they had resources. They had surveillance. They had power. And they were giving her a chance to escape because exposing her meant exposing the money's existence. But they made one mistake. They thought she was acting alone. They thought fear would make her cooperate. Maya picked up her phone and dialed not the number on the card, but her lawyer. She'd paid for a consultation when the eviction notice first arrived, using money she couldn't afford to spend. The lawyer, a tired woman named Patricia who did pro bono work for desperate clients, answered on the third ring. Patricia, it's Maya Carson. I need help with something complicated. How complicated? Maya took a deep breath. I legally purchased an abandoned train car at county auction. I found a hidden compartment with what appears to be several $100 million in old currency inside. Someone just threatened me. I need to know my rights. Silence stretched across the line. Then Patricia laughed, a sound without humor. Of course you did. Okay, don't touch anything else. Don't talk to anyone else. Meet me in my office tomorrow morning at 8. And bring every piece of documentation you have about that purchase. Maya hung up and sat in the dark, thinking. If she was in a fight for this money, she needed leverage. She needed proof that the money had been legally abandoned, that she had rightful claim to it as the owner of the train car. She spent the rest of the night researching property law, finder's rights, and government asset forfeiture. The laws were complex, contradictory, and heavily weighted in favor of the government. But there were precedents, cases where finders had successfully claimed abandoned property, even when that property was valuable. The key was proving that the property had been legally abandoned, that no one with legitimate claim had maintained ownership. The government had written this money off 50 years ago. They'd forgotten about it, left it to rust in a train car they'd also abandoned. That had to mean something legally. By morning, Maya had a plan. It was risky, possibly insane, but it was better than surrendering to threats. She called the number on the business card and left a short message. I need more time. I'll call back in 3 days. Then she went to meet with Patricia. The lawyer's office was a cramped space above a nail salon, furnished with secondhand furniture and overflowing file boxes. Patricia listened to Maya's story with increasing disbelief, interrupting only to ask clarifying questions. When Maya finished, Patricia leaned back in her chair and stared at the ceiling. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, she said finally. And I've heard a lot of ridiculous things. Can I keep it? Maya asked. Legally? Maybe. Possibly. It depends on 50 different factors. Patricia pulled a legal pad toward her and started writing. First, we need to establish clear ownership of the train car itself. You bought it at auction, which is good. But we need to verify that the auction was legal, that the previous owner had clear title to sell it. How do we do that? Public records. I'll request documentation from the county. Then we need to research the origin of the money. If we can prove it was government currency that was officially written off and abandoned, you might have claim under finder's law. What about the people who threatened me? Patricia's expression hardened. That's separate. If they're threatening you, we file a police report. Get on record. But, she paused. If they're who you think they are, that might make things more dangerous, not less. I know. Maya's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against her thighs. But I can't just give up. This money could change my daughter's life. It could change everything. It could also get you killed, Patricia said bluntly. These kinds of people don't play nice. If they think you're a threat to their plans, they won't hesitate to remove that threat. Maya thought of Emma. Her bright eyes, her infectious laugh, her trust that her mother would protect her. What would you do? Patricia considered the question. Honestly, I'd probably walk away. But I'm not you. I don't have a kid depending on me. I don't know what it's like to be that desperate. She sighed. If you want to fight this, I'll help you. But understand the risks. We're going up against people with resources we can't match. The best outcome is probably a settlement where you get some of the money in exchange for silence. How much? Enough to matter. Maybe a few million. Maybe more if we play this right. A few million. Still more money than Maya had ever dreamed of having. But it wasn't the justice she wanted. It wasn't the full value of what she'd found. Still, it was something. Something real. Something achievable. What's the first step? Maya asked. Patricia smiled grimly. We document everything. Every conversation, every threat, every interaction. We build a case that you're the legal owner of everything in that train car. And we prepare for war. Over the next 2 weeks, Maya lived in a state of constant anxiety. Patricia worked on the legal documentation, filing requests for public records, building the foundation of their case. Maya continued her shifts at the diner, acting normal, while her thoughts spun endlessly through worst-case scenarios. The threats escalated. The man from the train car called twice, his voice growing less polite each time. Time's running out, Miss Carson. Make the smart choice. Someone followed her home from work one night. She saw the headlights in her rearview mirror, noticed how they turned every time she did, stopped when she stopped. Fear clawed at her throat, but she kept driving, taking random turns until the headlights disappeared. Emma noticed her mother's stress. Are you okay, Mom? You seem scared. I'm fine, baby, Maya lied. Just work stress. But Emma was too perceptive. Is it about the train car? Maya pulled her daughter close. Yes, but I'm handling it. And whatever happens, we're going to be okay. I promise. She wished she believed that promise. 3 days before Patricia was scheduled to file their claim with the state, Maya received a certified letter. She opened it with trembling hands and read the single page inside. We know where your daughter goes to school. We know her route home. We know you drop her off at 8:15 every morning and pick her up at 3:30. Walk away, or the next letter will be a ransom note. Maya's vision blurred. She couldn't breathe. The paper slipped from her hands and drifted to the floor. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about Emma's life. She called Patricia immediately. They threatened my daughter. Bring the letter to the police. Right now, Maya drove to the police station with the letter clutched in her hand. The officer who took her statement looked skeptical. Ma'am, this is pretty vague. It doesn't actually threaten to do anything. They're just pointing out that they know information about your child. Are you serious? Maya's voice rose. They're clearly threatening to hurt her. I understand you're scared, but we can't arrest someone for making observations. Is there any specific threat in this letter? Any demand for money? Any actual crime we can investigate? Maya stared at him, disbelief morphing into rage. So you're saying I have to wait until they actually hurt my daughter before you'll do anything? The officer shifted uncomfortably. We'll keep the letter on file. If anything else happens, come back immediately. But right now, there's no crime to investigate. Maya left the police station feeling more alone than ever. The system wouldn't protect her. The law wouldn't help her. She was fighting powerful people with resources she couldn't match, and she was losing. That night, she sat in Emma's room, watching her daughter sleep. The bundles of cash hidden in the ceiling felt like a curse now. Blood money, even though no blood had been spilled yet. She thought she was saving them. Instead, she'd put them in danger. She could walk away. She should walk away. Take the 100,000 she'd already claimed, disappear, start over somewhere far from here. The people threatening her would get their money, and she and Emma would be safe. But Maya had never been good at surrendering. Life had beaten her down repeatedly, and she'd always gone back up. Leaving now meant accepting that power would always win, that people like her would never get justice, that desperation justified any threat. She thought about the train car rusting in the woods. She thought about the government officials who'd written off hundreds of millions of dollars rather than admit they'd lost it. She thought about the shadow organization that had monitored that money for decades, waiting for someone desperate enough to find it so they could steal it more easily than fighting the government directly. Everyone in this story was corrupt or compromised except her, and they expected her to be the one who gave up. Maya stood and walked to the kitchen. She pulled her laptop open and started typing, her fingers flying across the keys. If they wanted war, she'd give them war. But she'd fight smart. She drafted an email to every major news outlet she could think of. The story was sensational enough that someone would cover it. Single mother discovers hundreds of millions in abandoned train car, threatened by mysterious organization. She attached photos of the money, copies of her purchase documents, screenshots of the threatening messages. The email sat in her drafts folder. Her finger hovered over the send button. This was the nuclear option. Once she sent it, there was no going back. The story would explode across the internet. Everyone would know, but knowing would protect her. Public scrutiny would make it harder for the shadowy organization to hurt her or Emma. The government would be forced to acknowledge the money's existence. The whole conspiracy would unravel. It would also mean losing any chance of keeping the money. Once the story was public, the government would seize everything. She'd be famous for a week, then forgotten, left with nothing but her original poverty and new notoriety. Maya's hand shook. She closed the laptop without sending the email. Not yet. She needed to think. The deadline passed. The man called again. "You've made a mistake, Miss Carson. You'll regret this." "Maybe," Maya said, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. "But I don't respond well to threats. So here's my counteroffer. You leave me and my daughter alone, or I go public with everything. Photos, documents, recordings of your threats. I've already written it up. One click and the world knows." Silence stretched across the line. "Then you're bluffing. Try me." More silence. Then a new voice, older, rougher. "Miss Carson, let's be reasonable. We're prepared to offer you $5 million for your silence and cooperation. That's more money than you could spend in a lifetime. $5 million. The number hung in the air between them. It was a fortune. It was everything she needed and more. $10 million, Maya heard herself say. That's excessive. So is threatening my daughter. $10 million, or I send the email. A long pause. We'll need time to arrange that amount. You have 1 week. Maya hung up before they could respond. Her hand was shaking so badly, she dropped the phone. She just negotiated with people who could kill her. She demanded $10 million from an organization powerful enough to hide hundreds of millions. She was either the bravest person alive or the stupidest. Probably both. Patricia called an hour later. "I heard through contacts that someone powerful is asking questions about her case. About you. Maya, I think we need to accelerate our timeline." "I already did," Maya said, and explained the phone call. Patricia was silent for a moment. "You just negotiated a $10 million settlement. Without me. I'm sorry. It happened fast. I panicked. Don't apologize. That's brilliant. If they agree, you get life-changing money and end the threat." Patricia's voice carried a note of admiration. "Thought I should get 10% for my work so far." Maya laughed, giddy with relief and terror. "If this works, you'll get 20%. The week crawled by. Maya jumped at every sound. She walked Emma to and from school personally, scanning every car, every stranger. She barely slept. Food tasted like ash, but Emma was safe. That was all that mattered. On the 6th day, the man called again. "We have a deal. $10 million transferred to accounts of your choosing. In exchange, you sign a non-disclosure agreement and transfer ownership of the train car and its contents to a shell corporation we'll provide." "I want the money first," Maya said. "Not how this works. We need the NDA signed and the property transferred. Then the money. You could kill me once I sign." "We could kill you anyway," he pointed out. The NDA protects both of us. We can't touch you without risking exposure. You can't talk without breaching contract. It's mutually assured destruction. The lawyers call it a Mexican standoff. Maya thought about that. It made sense in a twisted way. I want my lawyer present for the signing. Fine. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. We'll send a location. The location turned out to be a conference room in an upscale hotel downtown. Maya and Patricia arrived together, both dressed in their best professional clothing. Patricia carried a briefcase full of documents. Maya carried nothing but determination. 3 men in expensive suits waited in the conference room. None of them was the man from the train car. These were lawyers, corporate raiders, the kind of people who made problems disappear with paperwork and offshore accounts. The negotiation took 4 hours. Patricia read every line of the NDA, questioned every clause, demanded modifications. The men remained calm, professional, occasionally conceding minor points. Maya sat silently, watching them work, realizing she was witnessing a battle fought with words instead of weapons. Finally, Patricia leaned back. This is as good as it's going to get. The terms are clear. $10 million in exchange for the property, your silence, and a release of any claims. If they breach, you can go public without penalty. If you breach, you forfeit the money and face legal action. Maya signed. Her hand was steady this time. She watched the men sign their copies, watched them initial every page. It felt surreal, like signing away her soul to the devil. But the devil was offering salvation. The money will be in your accounts by Friday, the lead lawyer said. Pleasure doing business with you, Miss Carson. They left. Maya and Patricia sat in the empty conference room, staring at the signed documents on the table. Is it over? Maya asked. For now. Patricia gathered the papers. They got what they wanted. You got yours. Everyone walks away alive. In this situation, that counts as winning. It doesn't feel like winning. It never does. But you're alive, your daughter's safe, and you're about to become very wealthy. That's more than most people get. Maya thought about the train car, still sitting in the woods, still hiding $277 million that now belonged to someone else. She'd found it, opened it, claimed it, and lost it, all in the span of a month. But she gained something too. She learned she could fight. She could negotiate with powerful people and survive. She could protect her daughter against threats that would have destroyed her before. Friday came. Maya checked her bank account obsessively every hour. At 3 p.m., the balance changed. $10 million appeared like magic, transforming numbers on a screen into the promise of a different future. She stared at the number, hardly believing it was real. She logged out, logged back in, checked again. Still there. Real. Hers. Emma came home from school and found her mother crying at the kitchen table. Mom? What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, baby. Maya pulled her daughter close, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the solid reality of her in her arms. Everything's right. We're going to be okay now. Better than okay. The next morning, Maya paid off every debt she owed. Every credit card, every medical bill, every late payment. She cleared her accounts completely, watching the weight of financial stress lift with each transaction. She bought a house. Nothing extravagant, just a modest 3-bedroom in a safe neighborhood with good schools. A place where Emma could have her own room, where Maya could sleep without fear of eviction notices. She set up college funds and trust accounts. She bought reliable cars and health insurance. She made sure Emma would never want for anything essential, never face the desperation that had driven Maya to bid on an abandoned train car. Word spread through their old neighborhood. Maya's sister called, suspicious and jealous. Where did all this money come from? What did you do? I got lucky, Maya said, which was true. And I'm not discussing it further. Her former mother-in-law sent a letter demanding she share the wealth with Emma's father. Maya tore it up without responding. Those people had never helped when she was drowning. They didn't deserve to benefit from her survival. Her co-workers at the diner gossiped endlessly. Theories circulated. She'd won the lottery, inherited money from a dead relative, married a rich man in secret. Maya quit her job without explanation, leaving only a generous tip for Carol and a note thanking her for years of patience. The transition wasn't easy. Maya struggled with imposter syndrome, feeling like someone would discover her fraud, take it all away. She had nightmares about men in suits appearing at her door. She checked over her shoulder constantly, expecting threats. But slowly, as months passed and nothing terrible happened, she began to relax. The signed NDA meant she was safe. The organization had gotten what they wanted. The train car was demolished, its contents hidden or distributed through channels she'd never know about. The story ended. Life moved on. A year later, Maya stood in the kitchen of her new house, watching Emma practice piano in the living room. Sunlight streamed through clean windows. The refrigerator was fully stocked. Bills sat paid on the counter. Everything was ordinary and perfect. Sometimes Maya thought about the train car, about the moment she opened that hatch and found more money than she could imagine, about the choices she'd made, the risks she'd taken, the deal she'd struck. She'd found $287 million and kept $10 million of it. Most people would say she'd lost. She'd let the majority slip through her fingers, settled for a fraction. But Maya knew better. She'd won. She'd taken a desperate gamble and survived. She'd protected her daughter. She'd climbed out of poverty. She'd proven that even powerless people could fight back and win, even if winning looked different than they'd expected. The train car was gone now, torn apart for scrap, its secrets scattered to the wind. But Maya remained, alive, free, wealthy enough to stop worrying. That was victory. Emma finished her piano practice and came to the kitchen. "Mom, can we get ice cream?" Maya smiled. "Sure, baby. Whatever you want." They drove to the ice cream shop in Maya's new car, and for the first time in her adult life, she ordered without checking the prices. Emma got a triple scoop with extra toppings. Maya got the same. They sat on a bench outside, eating ice cream in the afternoon sun, and Maya felt something she barely recognized. Peace. It wouldn't last forever. Life never let peace last forever. But for now, for this moment, it was enough. The story of the abandoned train car became local legend. People swore they'd seen it in the woods, though it had been removed years ago. They whispered about the poor woman who'd bought it for $1, found a fortune inside, and mysteriously disappeared into wealth. Some versions said she'd been murdered by the people who wanted the money. Some said she'd fled the country. Some said she'd never existed at all, just a story people told to make poverty feel less permanent. Maya heard these stories sometimes and smiled privately. Let them think what they wanted. The truth was hers to keep, locked away behind legal documents and carefully constructed silences. She never told anyone about the hidden compartment, about the stacks of bills wrapped in oilcloth, about the threats and negotiations. She kept her promise. The NDA held. The organization left her alone. The government never came asking questions. Years passed. Emma grew up, went to college, became everything Maya had hoped. She studied law, inspired by Patricia's fierce advocacy. She never knew the full story of where their money had come from, though she suspected her mother had done something brave and possibly illegal. "One day, will you tell me?" Emma asked once, when she was 23 and preparing for law school. Maya considered lying. Instead, she said, "One day, when you're older, when you can understand the choices people make when they're desperate." "I understand now," Emma said softly. "No," Maya said. "You understand poverty. You remember what it was like. But you don't understand desperation. I hope you never do." Emma hugged her mother. "Thank you for whatever you did. For giving me this life." "You're welcome, baby." Maya lived quietly in her modest house, managing her money carefully, investing wisely, never drawing attention. She donated to charities that helped single mothers. She volunteered at food banks. She remembered what poverty felt like and made sure she used her wealth to ease it for others when she could. Patricia remained her friend and lawyer. They had lunch once a month, never discussing the case that had brought them together. The NDA bound them both to silence. But they understood each other, warrior women who'd fought battles most people never saw. Sometimes, late at night, Maya drove out to County Road 12. The gate was gone now, the access road overgrown past recognition. No trace remained of the train car or the fortune it had hidden. Nature had reclaimed the spot, covering secrets with leaves and time. Maya would stand there in the darkness, remembering the moment she'd opened that hatch. The moment her life had changed. The moment she'd chosen to fight instead of surrender. She'd paid a price for that fight. She'd lived with fear, compromised her principles, made deals with dangerous people. She'd learned that justice wasn't pure, that survival required flexibility, that the world rewarded ruthlessness more than righteousness. But she'd also learned she was stronger than she'd known, braver than she believed, capable of things she'd never imagined. The train car was gone. The money was gone, most of it. But Maya remained. And that ultimately was what mattered. She drove home through the quiet suburbs, past houses where people slept safely, unaware of the battles fought in shadows, the compromises made for survival, the hidden fortunes that changed lives. Her own house waited, lights glowing warmly. Emma's car sat in the driveway, home for the weekend from college. Music drifted from an upstairs window. Everything was normal. Everything was perfect. Maya parked and sat for a moment, just breathing, just being. She'd found $287 million in an abandoned train car. She'd fought for it, negotiated for it, settled for a fraction of it. She'd won and lost simultaneously. But she'd survived. Her daughter had thrived. They'd escaped poverty and built lives worth living. That was enough. It had to be enough. And most days it was. Maya got out of the car and walked toward her house, toward warmth and light and the family she'd protected. Behind her, the past receded into darkness. Ahead, the future waited, uncertain but manageable. For the first time in her life, Maya faced it without fear. The abandoned train car had been a door to another world. She'd walked through it, taken what she needed, and closed it behind her. The door was gone now. But Maya remained, transformed by what she'd found, shaped by the choices she'd made, grateful for the chance to choose it all. In the end, that was the real treasure. Not the money, though the money mattered, but the knowledge that she'd been tested and survived, that she'd been desperate and fought back, that she'd been powerless and seized power anyway. The world tried to break people like her every day, and every day, some of them refused to break. Maya had been one of those people. She carried that knowledge like armor, like identity, like proof that she was stronger than any circumstance. The train car was legend now. The money was gone. The threats were history. Only Maya remained, living proof that sometimes, against all odds, the desperate and determined could win. She walked inside her house, and Emma called from the kitchen. "Mom, I made dinner. Be right there, baby." Maya hung up her coat and smiled. This was victory. This ordinary moment, this casual comfort, this freedom from fear. She'd fought for it, paid for it, earned it, and she'd do it all again. But the universe had a way of testing even the most carefully constructed piece. 3 years after Maya had signed the NDA and settled in her new life, the first crack appeared in the foundation she'd built. It started innocuously enough, with a phone call from a number she didn't recognize. Maya almost didn't answer. Years of hypervigilance had taught her to be cautious. But Emma was away at law school, and the mortgage company had called from an unknown number last week. So she picked up. "Ms. Carson," a woman's voice, professional but warm. "My name is Jennifer Reeves. I'm a federal investigator with the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Division. I need to speak with you about a matter of some urgency." Maya's blood turned to ice. Her carefully rehearsed response caught in her throat. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Ma'am, I'm not accusing you of anything, but we've uncovered some irregularities in currency tracking that may intersect with a property you once owned. A railway freight car purchased at county auction 4 years ago. Do you remember that purchase?" Every instinct screamed at Maya to hang up. The NDA bound her to silence. But refusing to talk to a federal investigator might be worse than talking. "I remember buying a train car, yes. I sold it years ago. To whom did you sell it?" Maya's mind raced. The paperwork from the settlement had transferred ownership to a shell corporation with a meaningless name, a company called Meridian Holdings. They paid fair market value. And what was fair market value for an abandoned train car? This was a trap. Every question was a trap. "I don't remember exactly. It was years ago. Miss Carson, I'm going to be direct with you. We're investigating the disappearance of approximately $287 million in federal currency that was lost during a secure transport operation in 1953. Our records show that transport was conducted via a railway freight car. That same freight car was sold at auction to you for $1. Maya sat down heavily. Her legs had stopped working properly. I bought an empty train car. There was nothing inside except old pallets and rust. Are you certain about that? Yes. The lie came easier than it should have. Years of protecting this secret had made her a practiced deceiver. Jennifer Reeves was quiet for a moment. Ms. Carson, lying to a federal investigator is a crime. If you're protecting someone or something, now is the time to come clean. Cooperation can make a significant difference in how cases like this are resolved. There's nothing to resolve, Maya said, her voice steady despite the panic clawing at her insides. I bought a train car, found it was worthless except as scrap, and sold it to someone willing to pay for the metal. That's the entire story. Another pause. We'll be in touch, Ms. Carson. I'd recommend consulting with an attorney. This investigation is just beginning. The line went dead. Maya sat frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear, listening to the silence that had replaced the investigator's voice. After all this time, after all her precautions, they'd come looking. Someone had talked, or someone had found records, or someone had made a mistake. She called Patricia immediately. The lawyer listened to Maya's recounting of the conversation without interrupting. When Maya finished, Patricia let out a long breath. "This is bad," she said finally. "The NDA protects you from the organization you made the deal with, but it doesn't protect you from federal charges if the government decides to prosecute. And if they're investigating, they already have evidence. They wouldn't contact you otherwise. What do I do? Nothing. Say nothing. If they contact you again, refer them to me. I'll file paperwork claiming attorney-client privilege on all matters related to the train car. We'll stonewall them as long as possible while I figure out what they actually know. Can they take the money back? If they can prove it was federal currency and that you knowingly concealed it, yes, they can seize everything. And they can charge you with theft of government property, which carries significant prison time." Maya felt the room spin. Everything she'd built, everything she fought for, hung by a thread again. Emma's college tuition, their home, their security, all of it could vanish. Worse, she could go to prison, leaving Emma alone. "There has to be something we can do," Maya said, hating how desperate she sounded. "There is. We prepare for war." Again, Patricia's voice hardened with determination. "You fought powerful people before and won. We'll do it again. But Maya, I need you to be completely honest with me. Is there anything about that train car, about the money, about the deal you made that could expose you? Anything at all?" Maya thought about the photographs on her phone, deleted years ago, but possibly recoverable. She thought about the bundles of cash she'd taken initially, spent on rent and bills, untraceable now, but still evidence if someone looked hard enough. She thought about the email she drafted to news outlets, never sent, but saved in her drafts folder for months before she finally deleted it. "I was careful," Maya said, "but I'm not a criminal. I might have made mistakes. Then we fix those mistakes. Starting now." Over the next week, Patricia worked systematically to build a defensive strategy. She filed motions claiming that any investigation violated Maya's privacy rights. She requested documentation of exactly what evidence the Treasury Department had. She made it clear that Maya would not cooperate without immunity agreements and full disclosure of the government's case. Meanwhile, Maya lived in a state of suspended terror. Every car that parked on her street looked suspicious. Every knock on the door might be federal agents with an arrest warrant. She couldn't eat. She barely slept. The peace she'd fought for shattered like glass, sharp edges cutting into every moment. Emma called from school, worried. "Mom, you sound strange. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetie. Just stressed about some financial planning." "You're lying. I can always tell when you're lying." Maya closed her eyes. Emma was 21 now, an adult, brilliant and perceptive. Maybe she deserved the truth, but the truth could implicate her, make her an accessory or a witness. The truth could destroy the innocence Maya had worked so hard to preserve. "I promise, I'm handling it," Maya said. "Focus on your studies. Everything will be fine." But she didn't believe that anymore. The second call from Jennifer Reeves came 2 weeks later. This time, the investigator's tone was less friendly. Ms. Carson, we've obtained financial records showing that approximately 3 years ago, $10 million appeared in various accounts under your name. The source of that money is listed as payment from Meridian Holdings for the sale of property. Can you explain why a shell corporation would pay $10 million for an abandoned train car? Maya's throat closed. They knew. They knew everything. I need to speak with my attorney. Your attorney has been stonewalling us. That strategy isn't going to work. Ms. Carson, we have evidence that the train car you purchased contained federal currency. We have evidence that you discovered this currency. And we have evidence that you negotiated payment for your silence from an organization that was attempting to steal government assets. I want immunity, Maya heard herself say. Complete immunity from prosecution in exchange for my cooperation. Jennifer Reeves laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're not in a position to negotiate. We have enough evidence to charge you right now. The only question is whether you cooperate voluntarily or we proceed with criminal charges. Then proceed, Maya said, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. Because without immunity, I have nothing to say. She hung up before the investigator could respond. Her hand was shaking so violently she dropped the phone. She just defied a federal investigator. She just dared them to arrest her. It was possibly the stupidest thing she'd ever done. Patricia called within the hour. They just contacted me. Maya, what the hell were you thinking? You demanded immunity. I'm not going to prison for finding money that the government lost and forgot about for 50 years. If they want my cooperation, they can guarantee I won't be punished for it. That's not how this works. They hold all the cards. No, Maya said slowly, an idea forming. They don't. They hold evidence. But I hold something they want more. I hold information about the organization that tried to steal that money. I can. Can they take the money back? If they can prove it was federal currency and that you knowingly concealed it, yes, they can seize everything. And they can charge you with theft of government property, which carries significant prison time. Maya felt the room spin. Everything she'd built, everything she fought for, hung by a thread again. Emma's college tuition, their home, their security, all of it could vanish. Worse, she could go to prison, leaving Emma alone. There has to be something we can do, Maya said, hating how desperate she sounded. There is. We prepare for war. Again, Patricia's voice hardened with determination. You fought powerful people before and won. We'll do it again. But Maya, I need you to be completely honest with me. Is there anything about that train car, about the money, about the deal you made that could expose you? Anything at all? Maya thought about the photographs on her phone, deleted years ago, but possibly recoverable. She thought about the bundles of cash she'd taken initially, spent on rent and bills, untraceable now, but still evidence if someone looked hard enough. She thought about the email she drafted to news outlets, never sent, but saved in her drafts folder for months before she finally deleted it. I was careful, Maya said, but I'm not a criminal. I might have made mistakes. Then we fix those mistakes. Starting now, over the next week, Patricia worked systematically to build a defensive strategy. She filed motions claiming that any investigation violated Maya's privacy rights. She requested documentation of exactly what evidence the Treasury Department had. She made it clear that Maya would not cooperate without immunity agreements and full disclosure of the government's case. Meanwhile, Maya lived in a state of suspended terror. Every car that parked on her street looked suspicious. Every knock on the door might be federal agents with an arrest warrant. She couldn't eat. She barely slept. The peace she'd fought for shattered like glass, sharp edges cutting into every moment. Emma called from school, worried. Mom, you sound strange. Are you okay? I'm fine, sweetie. Just stressed about some financial planning. You're lying. I can always tell when you're lying. Maya closed her eyes. Emma was 21 now, an adult, brilliant and perceptive. Maybe she deserved the truth, but the truth could implicate her, make her an accessory or a witness. The truth could destroy the innocence Maya had worked so hard to preserve. I promise, I'm handling it, Maya said. Focus on your studies. Everything will be fine. But she didn't believe that anymore. The second call from Jennifer Reeves came 2 weeks later. This time, the investigator's tone was less friendly. Ms. Carson, we've obtained financial records showing that approximately 3 years ago, $10 million appeared in various accounts under your name. The source of that money is listed as payment from Meridian Holdings for the sale of property. Can you explain why a shell corporation would pay $10 million for an abandoned train car? Maya's throat closed. They knew. They knew everything. I need to speak with my attorney. Your attorney has been stonewalling us. That strategy isn't going to work. Ms. Carson, we have evidence that the train car you purchased contained federal currency. We have evidence that you discovered this currency. And we have evidence that you negotiated payment for your silence from an organization that was attempting to steal government assets. I want immunity, Maya heard herself say. Complete immunity from prosecution in exchange for my cooperation. Jennifer Reeves laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're not in a position to negotiate. We have enough evidence to charge you right now. The only question is whether you cooperate voluntarily or we proceed with criminal charges. Then proceed, Maya said, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. Because without immunity, I have nothing to say. She hung up before the investigator could respond. Her hand was shaking so violently she dropped the phone. She just defied a federal investigator. She just dared them to arrest her. It was possibly the stupidest thing she'd ever done. Patricia called within the hour. They just contacted me. Maya, what the hell were you thinking? You demanded immunity. I'm not going to prison for finding money that the government lost and forgot about for 50 years. If they want my cooperation, they can guarantee I won't be punished for it. That's not how this works. They hold all the cards. No, Maya said slowly, an idea forming. They don't. They hold evidence. But I hold something they want more. I hold information about the organization that tried to steal that money. I can. With $4 million remaining, Maya had enough to live comfortably but not extravagantly. She continued managing her money carefully, aware that this was the last fortune she'd ever find. Emma's education was secure. Their home was paid off. They had health insurance and retirement accounts and emergency savings. It was less than the $10 million she'd briefly possessed. It was infinitely more than the nothing she'd had when she bought that train car for $1. But the experience had changed her in ways money couldn't measure. She'd learned that she could face powerful enemies and survive. She'd learned that leverage mattered more than righteousness in the real world. She'd learned that sometimes you had to compromise your principles to protect what mattered most. She'd also learned the weight of secrets, the cost of deception, the way guilt could eat at you even when you'd done what you had to do to survive. She'd lied to friends, family, and federal investigators. She'd made deals with criminals. She'd put her daughter at risk through her own desperation and greed. Those facts didn't vanish just because the crisis had passed. Maya carried them, examining them in quiet moments, wondering if she'd made the right choices, wondering if there had been right choices at all or only degrees of wrong. On the 5-year anniversary of buying the train car, Maya drove back to County Road 12 one last time. The gate was gone, the road almost invisible beneath encroaching forest. She parked and walked into the woods, following half-remembered paths. The spot where the train car had sat was completely overgrown. No trace remained of the massive freight car or the fortune it had contained. Nature had erased everything, patient and thorough. In another 5 years, even Maya might not be able to find this place again. She stood in the clearing, remembering the cold October rain, her daughter waiting in the car, the moment she'd raised her hand to bid $1. Every decision that had followed, cascading forward like dominoes, each one leading inevitably to the next. If she could go back, knowing what she knew now, would she still bid? Would she still open that hatch? Would she still fight to keep what she'd found? Maya didn't know. The question was too complicated, too tangled with consequences both good and terrible. She'd gained security and lost innocence. She'd protected Emma and endangered her. She'd found wealth and discovered it came with costs she hadn't anticipated. But standing in that overgrown clearing, one thing became clear. She wouldn't be who she was now without that train car. Wouldn't have Emma's respect, wouldn't have Patricia's friendship, wouldn't have the bone-deep knowledge that she could face impossible situations and survive. The train car had been a test, and she'd passed. Barely. Imperfectly. But she'd passed. Maya turned and walked back to her car. The forest closed behind her, swallowing the past. Ahead, the future waited. Uncertain, complicated, but hers to face on her own terms. She drove home, where Emma was cooking dinner and Patricia was coming over for their monthly visit. She drove past houses where people lived ordinary lives, unaware of the extraordinary dramas playing out behind closed doors. She drove through the neighborhood she'd fought so hard to join, the place where she finally belonged. The money was mostly gone. The train car was demolished. The secrets were exposed. But Maya remained. Scarred, wiser, stronger than she'd ever imagined she could be. That night, over dinner, Emma asked, "Mom, do you regret it?" Finding the money. Maya considered the question carefully. "I regret the danger I put us in. I regret the lies. But do I regret finding it? No. That train car gave us choices we never had before. It gave us this life. I can't regret that." Patricia raised her glass. "To found fortunes and hard choices. To surviving," Emma added. "To being stronger than we knew," Maya said. They clinked glasses, three women who'd faced impossible odds and emerged changed but unbroken. The past sat with them like a fourth guest at the table, acknowledged but no longer feared. Outside, night fell over the quiet suburb. Cars pulled into driveways. Families gathered for meals. The world turned, indifferent to individual struggles and triumphs. Life continued, ordinary and precious. Maya looked around her kitchen, at her daughter and her friend, at the life she'd built from desperation and luck and fierce determination. This was victory. Not perfect, not without scars, but real and earned in hers. The train car was legend now. The money was history. Only the people remained, carrying forward the lessons learned from that desperate gamble on a rainy October afternoon. And sometimes, late at night, Maya would remember the weight of those bundles in her hands. The moment she'd realized what she'd found. The terror and hope that had filled her when she understood everything was about to change. She'd been so scared then, so convinced she couldn't handle what was coming. But she had handled it. She'd faced down criminals and federal investigators. She'd negotiated with people who could have destroyed her. She'd protected her daughter and secured their future. The woman who'd bid $1 on an abandoned train car had been desperate and powerless. The woman who emerged from that experience was neither. Maya had discovered that strength didn't come from money or power, but from the willingness to fight for what mattered, even when the odds were impossible. That was the real treasure she'd found in that train car. Not the millions of dollars, though those had certainly helped, but the discovery of her own capacity for courage, for strategy, for survival against overwhelming odds. Emma would carry those lessons forward. Already in law school, she was fierce and uncompromising, advocating for clients who reminded her of her mother, fighting battles that seemed unwinnable. The train car's legacy extended beyond money into character, into the understanding that ordinary people could face extraordinary challenges and emerge transformed. Patricia had built a practice around defending clients like Maya, people who'd been desperate and made difficult choices. She'd taken the fee from representing Maya and used it to fund pro bono work for women in impossible situations. The money had multiplied its impact through her efforts, helping dozens of families escape poverty and abuse. Even the government had learned something, though Maya doubted they'd admit it. Their investigation had exposed massive flaws in asset tracking, corruption and oversight, and the ease with which criminals could exploit bureaucratic incompetence. Reforms had been implemented. Systems improved. Future lost fortunes might actually be recovered instead of hidden for decades. All of this had stemmed from one desperate woman's decision to bid on a train car she couldn't afford, hoping to find something worth selling. Maya had found far more than she'd imagined, and the world, in subtle ways, had changed because of it. Years would pass. Emma would graduate law school and build her own career. Maya would age, watching her daughter thrive, knowing she'd given her that chance. The story would fade from memory, becoming a strange anecdote people vaguely recalled. But for those who lived it, the truth would remain vivid and sharp. The terror of facing down powerful enemies. The exhilaration of winning against impossible odds. The cost of survival. The price of security. Maya had paid those prices willingly. She'd made her choices with open eyes, accepting consequences she couldn't fully predict. She'd gambled everything on a future that might not exist, and she'd won. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. And on quiet evenings, when the house was peaceful and Emma was studying upstairs and the bills were paid and the future felt manageable, Maya would allow herself a moment of pride. She'd done it. She'd taken $1 and turned it into a life worth living. She'd faced down threats that would have broken most people. She'd protected her daughter and secured their future against enemies both criminal and institutional. The abandoned train car had been her door to another world. She'd walked through it carrying nothing but desperation and determination. She'd emerged carrying enough to build a life, and more importantly, carrying the knowledge that she was strong enough to face whatever came next. That knowledge was worth more than any fortune. It was the foundation on which everything else was built, and it would last long after the money was spent, long after the story was forgotten, long after the train car had rusted into nothing. Maya Carson had found $287 million in an abandoned train car. She'd fought to keep it, lost most of it, but emerged with something more valuable than money. She'd discovered herself, her strength, her capacity for courage in the face of impossible odds. And that discovery had made all the difference. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.